Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. So this time we're coming to Centurion. Just a pure, pretty standard Centurion build. I know that last season I was doing the Stardust Bestial Centurion build. I definitely do intend to cover that deck again, but I also like playing multiple variants of decks, so I definitely wanted to take the pure version of this deck for a spin as well. I like doing this especially with decks that are kind of in the state the Centurion is in, where it's a very, very solid deck that really, I don't know, I put it in tier 3, but you could really make an argument this is pretty close to a tier 2 deck, and this will definitely get some more future support, so definitely looking to, you know, keep my skills with the pure build polished as well. So, you know, it's funny, I said Stardust Bestial Centurion, but it's like, I don't know, I don't feel like you really need to specify Bestial Centurion anymore, because pretty much every single Centurion build is on the Bestial package. It's very, very nice, because not only do, of course, the level 6 non-tuners let you go into some pretty good level 10 monsters, but on top of that, the Bestials right now are actually just pretty good hand traps in this current meta. There's a number of decks that it can catch a lot of stray light and dark monsters in the graveyard. Even something like Fire King, Snake Eye is going to put IP Masquerade in the graveyard, right? Of course, there is also the Yubel deck and the Mirror Match as well. There are lots of light and dark monsters in this deck. As well as, again, plenty of other meta decks out there. Tear Element's another big one. Pearly actually does play both light and dark monsters, so yeah, it's a pretty good time to be teching the Bestial monsters. I think they are pretty good in this current meta, so alright, we've been doing this trend lately that I've really been liking, and so far from what I can tell in the comments, it seems like y'all appreciate this too, of rather than doing like a breakdown just saying what all the cards of the deck are, I like pointing out specifically how many starters and how many hand traps we have, and the importance of these ratios cannot be, you know, stated enough, right? Because I was running some numbers just trying to get more of an exact figure, and if you are playing somewhere in the neighborhood of like 11 to 13 one-card starters as well as 11 to 13 hand traps, then your odds of opening both of those cards, like one of each of those cards, is actually really, really good. It's probably about like 80% from what I remember, generally speaking. Again, if you like have 13 of each, it's even higher than that. But more importantly is that, you know, we're making sure that we are, the majority of the time, opening at least one card starter and at least one hand trap. So, alright, so as far as like the one-card starters in this deck, the 3 Centurion pre-meta are one-card starters, as well as the 3 True Deus. That's 6 right there. The field spell is another one of our big one-card starters, Stand-Up Centurion. That's enough to get us into our plays. The definition of our plays here, by the way, is ending on Auxilia with Centurion pre-meta and True Deus in the spell trap with the field spell up and Centurion Phalanx set. That will, of course, let us go into a level 12 synchro during the opponent's turn, as well as, of course, again, having the Centurion Phalanx set up. So, so that's 9, right? Because we got 3 Premeta, 3 True Deus, 3 Stand-Up Centurion. That's 9. And then Emblema Oath. This is actually also a one-card starter. It's not necessary to combo, but I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? With the ability to put any Centurion monster in the spell trap or set a Centurion spell or trap card, you can simply put the Stand-Up Centurion face down or one of these into your spell trap, and then you should be able to one-card combo out from there. So that's 12, which is pretty good. Now, in the way of hand traps, we got 3 Veiler, 3 Sea, 3 Ash Blossom. That's 9 right there. Nib is 10, and then Imperms make 13. You could also count the Bestials too, and that would make 16, which actually gives us an exceptional number of hand traps, far more than the number of hand traps we've been playing in any other deck we've covered so far. But I don't know, the Bestials, it's kind of like, I mean, they are basically hand traps, right? But they're not always going to be as effective as something like a Veiler or an Ash or an Imperm, right? Those are directly negating, stopping an effect right there. Whereas banishing a light or dark monster in your opponent's graveyard could be enough to directly stop their plays, but sometimes it's not, and sometimes they're able to just combo out anyway. You know, sometimes they, you know, even though I did say there are a lot of light and dark monsters you can snipe, sometimes you may be playing against like Fire King Snake Eye and they don't do Snake Eye stuff, right? They only do Fire King stuff. So then they don't go into the IP and this card is dead. So I don't know. I wouldn't fault somebody for saying this deck has 16 hand traps and counting the 3 Bestials, but I also wouldn't fault someone for saying it's only got 13 and not counting them. But even if we go on the generous side of things and say that there's 13 hand traps, 12 one-card starters and 13 hand traps is actually a decent bit more than even, you know, some of the higher tiered decks that we've played so far this season, like Yubel and Fire King Seikai, right? So the deck's consistency is absolutely there. Let's see, for the extra deck here, it's all pretty standard. The only kind of like slightly atypical thing that I'm playing is shooting Quasar Dragon. I pulled this from the Master Packs that came with the recent bundle with like Junk Synchron and Stardust Dragon, right? So I'm playing this instead of a second Cosmic Blazar because I only own the one Cosmic Blazar Dragon, and to be honest, you really don't even need to play a second Blazar slash Quasar, right? Because I don't know, the odds of you actually needing the second Blazar are pretty low. You'd have to be in a very grindy game for that to come up, I think. But the Quasar is like essentially the same thing as a Blazar in terms of like being able to Omni negate. But the main difference, and this does matter, is that one, this can't negate summons or attacks. It can only, you know, do an Omni negate, which, oh no, it can only Omni negate. But it's still definitely worth noting. And also, this doesn't banish itself to negate the effect, right? It doesn't have to leave the field, it just does it, which there are pros and cons to that, I think. But I still think it's a very fine addition. I'll keep trying it, I'll see if it comes up. It hasn't yet for me, but I don't know, because like between the Blazar like and this Red Supernova and then also the option to go into Legacia, I usually find that to be enough. I'm on 2 Legacia just because I own 2. You definitely don't need to. You can definitely just play one of each of these. In fact, if I was going to choose to play a second of either of the Centurion 12s, I'd probably choose Auxilia. I think that would probably come up more often than the second Legacia, but again, the second copy of each of these don't typically matter that much, so yeah, and the rest of the extra deck is pretty standard. The only kind of common extra deck card I'm not on is the Excel Stardust, because I'm not playing Gamma. I actually considered it, but I don't know. I just wanted to keep the deck at 40 cards, not go over if we didn't have to. Like, if I was going to play Gamma and Driver, I'd probably want to go above 40, which really wouldn't be that big of a deal, because we can just add those as more hand traps, and then also, do I don't have this card bookmarked? Yeah, here it is. We can also still play Bonfire for more, like, one-card starters, right? To search Trudea, which, as we discussed, is a one-card play. So, yeah, if you wanted to play more hand traps and more one-card starters, you could actually include more of each. Oh yeah, I played Prosperity here, which I think is fine. There's a lot of this extra deck you just don't ever use. In fact, I think 1, 2, 3, 4... 5, 6. Yeah, it's not hard to find even 6 cards to banish with Prosperity. Those 6 that I just clicked on are probably the ones off the top of my head that I would probably pick. But yeah, Prosperity I think is a fine consistency increasing tool. But again, you could also just play the Bonfire for Trudea if you wanted instead. Okay, yeah, I think that covers pretty much everything I wanted to say about this particular build. So let's go ahead and start looking at some of these duels. Okay, so our first game is actually going to be a mirror match. Opponent's also on a pretty pure Centurion build. They're playing Assault Synchron, which I don't think Assault Synchron or Ringo Worm are bad in this deck, but I think I'm at a point where I've kind of ended up phasing them out, but again, I don't think they're bad by any means. Alright, opponent's going to lead with Lubellion for the Magnum Hut. I actually remember this duel now that it's starting. Yeah, because my opponent passed after that. So, this is going to be a game where my opponent doesn't have a lot of, like, starters in of themselves, but they are going to have a lot of disruption in their hand. You're going to see a lot of Bestial monsters from our opponent in this game. So, we did have an Imperm just in case they had stuff. Drawing Primera for turn. Not really that useful because we already have multiple Trudea to make plays, but I'll just use one of my Trudeas to get things going. Alright, pre-meta, getting the Field Spell. Now, this is actually one of those meta decks that doesn't really have a clean way to, like, OTK on turn 2, so I don't think I'm going to be able to do that here. I did threaten to move to Battle Phase here, though, to get some good damage in before I keep comboing, and that's why my opponent drew a Swarmed here. I thought it was interesting that they chose to summon Drew a Swarm, because if we look at the Lubellion search, they actually added Magnum Hut. So we knew they still have the Magnum Hut in hand, right? And we gotta be mindful for that. So they're banishing the Trudea from our graveyard. Summoning the Druid Swarm. Alright, we're gonna make the Auxilia here. I will say that I think the reason my opponent made Druid Swarm was so that I wouldn't just go for Centurion Legatia and just pop, you know, the monster, right? So, okay, here comes the Magnum Hut banishing the pre-meta. This is actually fine, though, because Auxilia can place the Centurion monsters from banish or graveyard, so that doesn't really matter that it's gone. They do get a search. I'm going to battle over the Magnum Hut here just to not give them, you know, bodies on the board to make stuff. Setting 3, opponent's going to Saronir next here. I did kind of debate. Like, you may be wondering, like, Hex, why didn't you use Crossout Designator at all during that turn? Your opponent activated multiple Bestial monsters that you have in your deck that you could have negated. You also didn't set it here. The reason I didn't activate one of my my Crossout against one of the Bestials is that, well, one, once my opponent showed me that they had Druid Swarm and Magnum Hut, I'm like, okay, well, it's extra pointless to negate one of them now, right? But even if I think if they only had the one, like if they only had that Magnum Hut I saw them search, I still wouldn't cross it out because, like, yeah, I could stop them from summoning it, like, this turn, but what does that really accomplish, right? They can just summon it on the next turn anyway, and it's not like I'm going to OTK here, as I said before, so, and then the reason I didn't set the cross out is because I value these other 3 cards as interruption during my opponent's turn more highly, and of course we have to leave a spell trap zone open to place the pre-meta, so. Alright, end phase opponent's going to add a Lubellion off the Magnum Hut there, going into their turn. Looks like they're linking off Druid Swarm and Saronir to go into the SP Little Knight. So still no Centurion cards from our opponent here. Alright, here Druid Swarm and Saronir are going to activate. I'm going to use the Call By on the Druid Swarm here. And then we'll go ahead and go into our level 12 Synchro with Pre-Meta and Trudea. Alright, summon that. Treat is an 8. Summon Pre-Meta. Call By banishing the Druid Swarm. Alright, Saronir is going to mill the Regained. That's completely fine. I was very surprised when I saw the Regained get milled. I was like, really? I thought something better, frankly, was going to get milled. So, I chain blocked here. I don't know why I chain blocked the field spell effect. I guess now that I think about it, there wasn't very likely to be something that could negate it in this situation. I chain blocked it here because I just found it more valuable. So even though my opponent did get to Ash the pre-meta search, it also just does not matter at all. Like, I already have follow-up in my hand, so to be honest, I'm actually a little bit glad. I think I'd rather Ash on the pre-meta happen right now than on my turn. In fact, I think I would definitely rather that be the case, so. Alright, so no search. Again, that doesn't matter. Field spell resolving. Gonna go for the Crimson Dragon. Now, I do have the Imperm here on the SP, so that way I can successfully summon my level 12 Synchro. But I misclicked. Happens once in a blue moon. It's so easy for it to, but I accidentally clicked the right button instead of the left button. I don't know. Don't know what else to say. That's just what happened. But yeah, definitely not ideal. Opponent gets to banish the Auxilia, but it's gonna come back anyway. It's like I can just imperm the SP later. I was very confident my opponent was not going to be able to OTK me here. I also do still have the Centurion Phalanx, you know, face down in case I need it, so. Alright, yeah, and then end phase, the Auxilia gets to set up the Trudea and the Spell Trap, which is cool, so. I'm going to go for the Bestial Lubellion here. Now, I'm drawing my Bestial stuff. And it's funny, my opponent drew all the Bestial stuff, I drew all the Centurion stuff, which, you know, I think I'd rather be the one drawing all the Centurion stuff in this situation, so. Very glad we held that cross out. We get to use it now against our opponent's Maxi on our turn. So now they just have the SP face down and a card in hand to deal with. The SP, of course, we can deal with the Imperm. And the card in hand is probably not going to be too much of anything. Face down is a little slightly intimidating, but nah, I think it'll be fine. My opponent's probably like freaking out because I flipped Imperm here, and it's like, why did you use this last turn? So. Now I got the pre-meta for the Wake Up Centurion. I'm going to sink for a 10 here, actually. Not even going for a 12 just yet. But I'm going to make the Baron de Fleur. Going after the face-down card here. Opponent's going to flip it. It's Branded Beast. But they opted to destroy the Auxilia, so I was like, okay. I said, that's fine. You can do that. Alright, now I can summon out the Trudea for pre-meta, Gargoyle 2 to summon itself. And I summoned Lubellion here. Which I think, I don't know. Well, I guess my opponent just conceded. Oh yeah, I can't summon pre-meta off her own effects. I did that already this turn. Never mind. I was like, why didn't I make him move 12? I should have just gone for Legatia, but I don't think I could have in that situation. Well, what I could have done... Oh, that wouldn't have really done much. I was going to say, I could have activated Wake Up Centurion, but... and then tried to use the graveyard effects, but it's like, we so have this game won at this point. It's like, who cares? Right? Like, this game is definitely just over. So, there you go. Pretty solid back and forth mirror match for our first game. We still got a couple more to check out. Let's see our next duel. All right, our next opponent is... I literally just forgot. I looked at their list. It's Mikanko. That's what it was. Jeez, that was bad. I looked at their list like 10 seconds before I started talking, and in that time, I forgot what they were on for a moment. Anyway, another pretty decent opening hand here. We got Trudea and a pre-meta, as well as a couple of hand traps to the call by. Again, these ratios, like this is we've had an example of this in literally every single video, where like we see the exact kind of hand that demonstrates why I think crafting these ratios and making your decks adhere to them is so important. And again, as always, if you can play even a few more hand traps than you do one-card starters, that actually does tend to be better in a format like this, where having multiple hand traps is often needed to fully stop what your opponent's doing. So, pretty standard turn 1 here. Going to set up the Auxilia plus 12 on the opponent's turn, and 3 back row as well, which is always very nice. Okay, so we're going to lead with Aberrask here, equipping it to my Centurion Auxilia. I'm going to use the Primera and the Trudea here to go into the Crimson Dragon. Basically, if it's a Mikanko, like, I don't know. This is actually a pretty interesting, question. Is like, what level 12 Dragon Synchro do you go into first, right? Or do you go into it all during your opponent's turn? Do you go into Red Supernova, or do you go into Blazar? I tend to be more in favor of going into Blazar, but it really does come down to the matchup, right? And so here, I think I'm more apt to use the Blazar, because with Mikanko, they're like, not necessarily trying to board swarm, and not necessarily the most, like, need my monsters to get into the graveyard kind of strategy. Those are kind of the decks where I go more out of my way to summon the Red Supernova. Like against something like Tearlament, for example, I would definitely go out of my way to summon Red Supernova. But again, Mikanko is more about the individual activations. That's kind of, again, what it comes down to for me, is like, if I feel like the individual activations matter more, then I'll make Blazar. If I feel like banishing a board of monsters to keep them out of the graveyard is more important, I'll go for Red Supernova. But at the same time, it's like, it's not just banishing that makes Red Supernova good, right? It's also just a good monster. It's like, it's a very nuanced aspect of playing this deck, so... Now that I have the Blazar out, I'm actually going to use Phalanx on my own Auxilia. That'll do a couple of things. The main thing that'll do is get the Aberrask into the graveyard. Although, to be fair, I should have waited for it to actually activate the effect. Because then it's a once per turn effect they couldn't use in their copy, right? But also, Phalanx, when it brings the monster back, it actually does special summon it, right? And the Centurion Auxilia search effect activates when it's special summoned, not just when it's synchro summoned. So not only did I effectively use Phalanx to negate my opponent's Aberrask, but now also I get another search later. So they do have a Dark Ruler no more for the Cosmic Blazar Dragon here. It's a little annoying, except for the fact that the next card they activate is another Aberrask. Now the Dark Ruler no more is actually completely fine. I can still not negate the card, but I can prevent it from resolving. And those are actually two different things here, because Aberrask is going to activate the one that's equipped to Blazar, and I'm chaining Blazar's effect. Now you might be thinking, Hex, what are you doing? Your monster's effect is negated. This will do nothing. It actually will prevent the card from activating, because Blazar still has to banish itself as a cost, which means the Aberrask is no longer on the field as the effect is attempting to resolve. And like continuous spell and trap cards, like field spells, equip spells also need to remain face up on the field while they're resolving. If they leave the field in the middle of the chain link, they don't resolve. So even though my Blazar got hit with Dark Ruler no more, I can still effectively negate my opponent's card here. They do have an evenly, but this is so unbelievably unimportant. I'm just going to keep the Imperm, and then sure enough, they have nothing else left for follow-up. During the end phase, I get my Blazar back. During the standby phase, I get my Auxilia back. Auxilia effect, like I said, is going to give me another search for another field spell that we just lost. And I'm just going to normal summon Trudeia and go for battle phase here. And that does end up being enough to get us there. So that's why I said I should have waited for Aberrask to activate its effect before I used Phalanx. That was a very minor misplay on my part, because they did actually end up having the second Aberrask, right? If I had done that when I used Phalanx, my opponent wouldn't have even been able to use the second Aberrask from hand. But we had an out to the second one as well, so I thought that was a pretty cool game, showing not only a very standard turn 1 line from the Centurion deck, but also playing through Mikanko's stuff in a very interesting way. So anyway, got one more game we're going to check out here before we end off the video. And our final opponent for this video is going to be on a Yubel deck. Oh, I didn't mention at any other point during this video. I meant to, shoot. But I actually, I was playing Mathmech, which was kind of like was our last video, and it's kind of like my default laddering deck. And I was debating playing Mathmech until I got to Master Rank. But I was like, nah, I'll play a little Centurion. I feel like synchro summoning. And I actually, immediately upon switching to Centurion, hit a 6-game win streak. That took me almost to my rank up game, actually, in Diamond 1, my Master rank up game. So yeah, switch to Centurion, immediately hit a 6-game win streak. Very nice. Love to see it. So open a couple of Veilers here. I'm going to use them against my opponent's Dark Beckoning Beast and then follow up Spirit of Yubel. So this should hopefully be enough to stop my opponent from being able to make plays. But from what I recall, they are able to push through it. Looks like they're going to link off the Amirage and Yubel. Well, they're just going for an SP, right? Yeah. Now, even though all my opponent's able to really put up is an SP Little Knight and a back row, our hand is not actually looking the best to play through that. And the Imperm is actually a very, very solid draw. Because if I just normal summon Trudeia and activate the effect, they can just use SP to banish this, right? And then I guess I could still special summon pre-meta and go for the field spell. But then if I try to place Gargoyle, then I won't be able to special, because I think I need another one of the spell trap, right? Like, yeah, MF6 doesn't get me there because I'd have to put the pre-meta in the spell trap, and I don't have a tuner on the field, so this Imperm was actually a fantastic top deck here. Except my opponent's got crossed out. No! So, yeah, it's like the one card that completely screws me over here. So, rather than try to make plays with Trudeia just to not have that happen with SP, I was like, fuck it, I'll just go for Typhon and battle and see what happens here. I don't have a lot of confidence going into my opponent's turn because they have an opening of the Spirit Gates. Which is definitely going to be enough to get them to plays by itself, because they can just bring back the Spirit of Yubel. Pitching an evenly matched there. Setting up the Nightmare Pain. Yeah, I don't know. One of the main reasons I wanted to show this game was to try to figure out, like, should I have tried to make plays with Trudeia, right? If they chain SP to when I activate the effect of Trudeia, then, again, I put only pre-meta in the spell trap. I think, anyway, because, hang on, let me see the wording on Trudeia. During your main phase, you can place this card you control and one Centurion monster from your hand or deck except in the spell trap zone. Okay, so I think that would work. I think even if Trudeia got banished by SP, you could still place the pre-meta. So then, pre-meta would special from the spell trap zone, effect activate to add stand up F, pitch one of my cards, place, like, Gargoyle 2. Oh wait, I should have just done that. This doesn't need another thing in the spell trap zone to be able to special itself, it just does it. Doesn't it? It does. What was I thinking? Wow, God. Well, okay, so... So if my opponent had used the SP against the Trudeia, that would have been enough to... That would not have been enough to stop me. But if they'd used it against the pre-meta, I think that would have. Because then I wouldn't have a tuner, right? And I can't make plays without a tuner. I'm just thinking of myself as, like, Velma, like, I can't see a thing without my glasses. Oh, I can't make plays without a tuner. But I totally forgot my opponent went for a super producer line here. Not the most common thing, but very effective when it does go off. Yeah, I could have played this better. I definitely could have played this better. I think, though, if my opponent was also playing optimally, they would have completely stopped me anyway. But at the same time, I could have just Typhoned a past at that point, right? Because I would still have the ability to put a monster in play. Yeah, I definitely misplayed that. Was that... Hang on, what did they just mill there? Was that anti-spell fragrance? That was anti-spell fragrance. Oh my god. What the hell kind of a build is this? Anti-spell fragrance and evenly? It's like a going first card and a going second card here. Alright, yeah, no, they were always going to be able to find enough bodies to finish me off here. They even did it with Ultimate Nightmare, which is very, very flashy. So yeah, no, upon further analysis, I did misplay. That's one of the reasons why I include losses like these. Like, I have had a couple of comments recently being like, well, why did you include this game? You just lost really quick. And it's like, well, the Phantom Knight game in particular on the Sprite video, as I mentioned in the comments, I included because I thought my opponent's deck was really cool and they played it very well. That is sometimes why I'll leave losses in. Even if I don't do a lot, I am just like, well, I liked my opponent's deck and they were very skilled with it. So, but yeah, no, another one of the reasons I like leaving in games like this to kind of not only analyze it myself and see if I could play better, but again, get input from you all because, you know, it's always more beneficial to have more eyes on a game and more opinions coming in about it. But anyway, yeah, I think that's going to do it for this one. Thanks as always for watching these games. Let's move now to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Just want to give you a huge thanks for watching all the way to the very end of the video. Believe it or not, that is actually one of the best ways that you can support the channel is by watching the videos in their entirety. But there are many ways in which you can support the channel if you are so interested. The names that you're seeing on screen here, I gotta give an extra special thanks to because these are people who have chosen to either become a member on YouTube, which if you're interested you can do as well via the join button next to the subscribe button down there, or have signed up over on Patreon and become members there. Link to that is going to be in the description below. Without the support that is being offered by, again, all the people that you're seeing on screen right here, I would not be able to take the time to dedicate to uploading daily YouTube videos. So thank you so very much. But there are also other ways you can support as well. Again, link to the description below. If you like my deck tracker that you'll see in a lot of my videos, the Untapped Companion, you can download that for free, and if you use my affiliate link down there, then that also goes a long way towards supporting the channel. That's again free. So is subscribing here on YouTube. That's also free and a huge way to support. You can also check out Twitch, once again linked in the description below. Following and subscribing over there will not only support as well, but also give you notifications of when I go live if you want to catch some of the live streams. But really, no matter how you choose to support, it all adds up and it all definitely means the world. So thank you each and every one of you. For now, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out. But more than that, I'm hoping that you have a fantastic day.